Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video, and I'm just realizing I probably should have brought up the article I'm talking about as I go through this here. Pretty much I wrote an article this morning about 5 Destiny 2 nerfs that I think went a little too far and need to be kind of brought back. I knew that I wouldn't remember everything, so I kind of asked for people to suggest their own, and a lot of people reminded me of a lot of things that have been nerfed that still kind of need to be rolled back, and in addition to the ones I did already. So I'll just briefly go through the ones I mentioned. On my list, number 1 was Hunter Dodge. This was as of the last patch where they really increased the time for Hunter Dodge, especially on the melee reset one because of what they did with cooldown times. This is mainly a PvP change, and yet it feels like they made it for PvP, but it feels terrible in PvE because so much of Hunter survivability relies on dodging all the time, whether that's instant reloads or getting invisibility or anything like that, and it just really breaks the whole flow of the class. And again, this seems like something that was mainly done for PvP, but after all this time, we are still kind of impacting PvE with our changes here. The second one is a Hunter thing from a long time ago, where I think it is time for a rebuff to Blade Barrage. The problem once upon a time was that Blade Barrage was like, with shards, you could just refill it instantly, but now everything has been nerfed to really not give a whole lot of super energy back, period. Like, all of those super regen exotics have been heavily nerfed. I don't remember if they're nerfed down to, like, I think they're capped at 50% or something, but they may have been nerfed even more with the last set of patches. But regardless, I think the main point is that, like, it needs to be more of a damage buff, and I would love to see some sort of exotic like we got with Curious with Titans that made Thunder Crash actually good for boss damage. I would love to see Blade Barrage get a buff like that, because Hunters do not have any great PvE supers, which is why they're getting banned from LFGs, because they can't offer utility or damage outside of Celestial, but everyone is tired of using Celestial for 4 years, so I'm hoping for more there. I have Tier 1 Super Regen on this list. When they broke everything into tiers, there are, is it Tier 1 or Tier 5? Tier 1 is the slowest, and those are all the roaming supers, so Spectre Blades, Fist of Havoc, Hammer of Soul, Glacial Quake, and Winter's Wrath. Those were really annoying in PvP, certainly, and I get why they were nerfed there, but the change affects everything, and sure enough, those supers feel like they have ridiculously long cooldowns now. In PvE, I made the example where I was trying to run like a Glacial Quake build on Titan in Gambit, and I literally could not win or lose. I could not finish a game and get a super. Like, I might get one, at the very end of the Primeval phase, but unless I was like speccing like really, really hard into super stuff or using like bad juju or something, it was a nightmare. So I think those got hit a little hard, and again, that was a PvP change that is very much affecting PvE. There is some stuff with the recent ability changes that Bungie says they're kind of like preparing for other changes coming in the Witch Queen, so maybe this stuff will make more sense then, but yeah. Xenophage, number 4. That got nerfed, that got hit with an RPM hit, and I think they nerfed the damage a little bit, I don't remember, but the RPM change sucks. It just feels like a totally different weapon, and it is terrible to fire now. I think they were doing this to offset some buffs to machine guns, and then Xenophage was like a little strong in some things, but it wasn't like, I don't know, I didn't think it was like the be-all end-all of PvE stuff, and there's tons of competition for the heavy slot, so I think they got hit a little hard, and I would hope they bring that back. And then 5, this is as of the latest patch, where Duskfield grenades got destroyed in PvE for like no reason. Why did that happen? They don't Vortex PvE enemies at all anymore. Like, I remember when, the Vortex suck was like terrible in PvP, and then that got nerfed to some extent in PvP, but it was still really good in PvE, but now they just eliminated the pull completely in PvE, which I don't understand, and it makes it just like this little dusting of slow and freeze, although it's very easy for enemies to wander outside of the freeze bubble if there's no Vortex, so I don't get it. I don't know why they did that. So anyways, those were my 5, and now I have a lot of replies to go through. We'll see how many of these I get through. Okay. I'm just going under my tweet thread here, and I will kind of comment on whether I think things were good or bad. Kevlar just says, everything that was nerfed in PvE because of PvP. Okay, well, that's that's a little general. So yes, that is generally speaking a good philosophy to abide by, is don't kill things in PvE for PvP. Destiny the memes, this Graviton Lance. So apparently this was nerfed a long time ago, but it was also buffed, so I don't think this counts. It got nerfed like way back in year 1, but then it was buffed because they really buffed I think the explosion size or damage or something, although I think it might be bugged right now. Handheld Supernova feels horrible. They did... this has been like all over the place. Like, it feels terrible in PvP. It can't one-shot people ever in PvP anymore, I don't think. They made some changes for PvE, except the main one, charge time, is still really high, so I think that has not felt great. Let's see. Chain Lightning got hit with the too high of win rate nerf. Yeah, I do remember that getting nerfed a bit. Again, that's another PvP thing. And what else? Shiver Strike. Shiver Strike has never felt good. I don't think Shiver Strike has ever been good. They just increased the range on it and then some damage, but I hate the way that feels. The Titan Stasis melee has never been good. You have to be like the perfect amount of distance where you're like not so far away enough that you'll whiff completely, but not so close that it doesn't trigger at all. So I think that whole thing is terrible. I think they should change it to just a charge one where you at least know when it's going to activate, and then probably buff the damage too. Trench Barrel and Box Breathing. That's a good one. Those are ones that I forgot. So I've actually been using Trench Barrel a little bit lately with the new Wastelander shotgun, and it's not terrible. So I don't know about Trench Barrel. Like, I think the point of Trench Barrel was that they changed it so you couldn't just spam like only shotguns for like infinite crazy damage buffs, like planting a well at the boss's feet, and then everyone whips out their shotgun and just decimates the boss, which is when it got nerfed back when it was pretty much just Aquila shotguns that had that. I would not be opposed to a bigger buff, but I don't know. I think maybe people should kind of circle back to it, especially with the recent shotgun pellet PvE buffs. It's not terrible. Like, I've actually kind of liked it quite a bit on the Wastelanders. So I don't know. We'll see. Box Breathing is terrible. Snipers are terrible in PvE for the most part. There's kind of an entirely separate section here about like things that they tried to buff but didn't buff enough. I think snipers need to be buffed further. I think they tried to buff Darcy, and then Darcy is still just terrible, even with all the buffs they did. So there's still other stuff to do there. The grenade launcher nerf. Grenade launchers are now in a very weird spot. They were like the ultimate meta, like your spike nade launchers, but they got hit really hard, and now they're kind of in this weird place between, like, they're never going to be as good for boss damage as rockets or swords right now, but they're also not like really great for mob clear, except for a couple chain reaction type ones, but you don't want to use your heavy for mob clear really for the most part. So that I do think grenade launchers need some work. Let's see, everyone's just complaining about hunters. 1-2 punch nerf, that's kind of similar to what we saw with Trench Barrel. I would like to see that buffed again. And snipers, Icefall Mantle, they just got the buff from the 30th anniversary patch to make you able to be shutted off, but those have like really never been that good, and I think they're afraid to buff those too much because of PvE. Behemoth Titan just generally, I agree that Behemoth Titan has just never really been in a good spot. Ruinous Effigy. This is like one of the weirdest ones of all time, right? I mean, I don't remember which season this was in, but like they nerfed. What did they nerf about Ruinous? I think it was like the field you create or something, and then the dunk slam. I think they nerfed the damage on both of those, and everyone was like, okay, why did they do that? Like, Ruinous Effigy is not meta. It's just kind of this fun, goofy weapon. And they're like, all right, well, maybe something's coming next season there's a reason they're doing this. Nothing ever came. I still have zero idea why they nerfed Ruinous Effigy. It makes no sense. I don't understand why they ended up doing that, and they've never reverted it, so here we are. Well of Radiance, some people are saying got nerfed a little too much. LMGs and PvE got nerfed a long time ago, and they never really came back. LMGs, the reason they got nerfed back then was because of the full auto-loading well thing, where like all wells could auto-load your gun and barricades could auto-load your gun for a while, and then they got rid of auto-loading everything. But they never got really rebuffed. I thought they did some sort of buff to machine guns in the last patch, but like it wasn't to boss damage. Like, they're still ridiculously outside the meta for boss damage, so you have to be sacrificing your heavy slot for essentially, again, more mob clear. So machine guns still are not in a great spot. You're starting to get to repeats here. Geomegs and PvE. This bothers me too, where I understand the not topping up super thing for PvP, but I really like that aspect of it in PvE. I thought that was one of its more fun elements, and now it's just a regular thing that extends the duration of the actual Chaos Beam or whatever it's called. I do miss that in PvE. I don't know why they had to take that out completely, but again, this is one of those PvP versus PvE things. Cool Guy chimes in to talk about the time when they nerfed Memento Mori on Ace because it could 2-tap when One-Eyed Mask was active, and then eventually they would nerf One-Eyed Mask, but like I think that nerf stayed in place for Ace, so that was just like a really weird situation. They nerfed one gun that everyone could use as opposed to nerfing Mask, which only one class could use. Mask was such a problem for such a long time. Like that's a lot of stuff got messed up there. Probably one of the biggest ones that I can remember that I didn't put in this article that is definitely one I agree with is the high impact fusion nerf, where they made everything 1,000 charge time. They're really strong. They hit very hard, and yet they feel terrible. That 1,000 charge time nerf, it feels like one of the worst things to use in the game. The only thing that should have charge time like that is 1,000 Voices, and to have that on all high impacts now is just brutal. And like I'm even okay if they have to nerf the damage a little bit to compensate for it, but like you can't just make a weapon class that just feels so awkward and uncomfortable to use like that. It doesn't work, and that is not a good philosophy. Like I get that like the numbers might make sense for that one. We're like, okay, it does this much damage, so we have to nerf charge time by this amount, and then it's not going to be overpowered. But like at a certain point, you just have to be like, this feels like trash, and we need to revert this in some way. Maybe we don't need to go back to exactly how high impacts were before. Again, I think that is mostly a PvP thing, and the charge time is so people couldn't zap people too quickly or whatever. But that really affected PvE, and this is supposed to be like fusion of this season of the fusion rifle. And what are we all using? The rapid fire ones, because those are the really good ones, and high impacts feel like absolute trash now. So that is something I really hope we change. I think that is kind of the main ones. I may have missed some in here, but clearly I could have done like a list of 15 on here, but sounds like Paul Tassi mains Hunter. I don't actually. I'm mostly main Warlock. Hunter's probably number 2, but this is complicated because sometimes I think changes are made with like a certain context at the time, and then things change. Like something else gets patched, like the meta shifts, whatever, and then other stuff gets left behind. And I think we see that a lot where a lot of older changes were made for a specific reason, but they don't really make sense for the current state of the game. Sometimes we see them catch up with stuff, but there's clearly still a lot of stuff that has been left behind. Some of these are more recent, like the fusion rifle changes and the hunter dodge nerf and things like that. So if those are kind of just disliked, across the board, those can be changed quickly. I think we need to figure out what is going on with the Witch Queen. It's, obviously we're getting the new Void subclass and stuff, but it's going to be more than just that. There's going to be another big sandbox pass, clearly. And then we didn't even touch on things that just need buffs in general. Fusion or pulse rifles and PvE, like that's, the first one that comes to mind for me. So I think there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up in, they'll probably start talking about this in, 2 months or so once we start getting like sandbox previews and things. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good list. I appreciate all you guys helping me come up with those because it was hard to kind of think of all of them off the top of my head, and just I had my top 5, but all of those I think are pretty valid. So Evie, you coming? Final cameo? Oh, hello. You couldn't, had to be in the video at least for 2 seconds. So if you stay to the end, there's your bonus Evie footage. And if you subscribe to God Rolls, my newsletter, you'll get a bonus Eevee photo, which I need to go write that. Yep. Oh, Eevee got these really loud toys for Christmas, these really crinkly, crunchy toys. So that's a new fun thing that you're probably going to hear on video sometimes now. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care.